My name is Terry Absher, and I'm an insurance claims adjuster. Most of my money is made during hurricane season, so in anticipation for Hurricane Florence, I drove up to Georgia. The claims weren't coming in because of the flooding, so I decided to go spend a week at my father-in-law's house in North Carolina. I had been looking for an opportunity to share the gospel with them, and so this was a perfect opportunity. The next Saturday, I had a 7-hour drive to my first inspection. After I completed all my inspections that day, I started to look for a hotel but was unable to find one. I called a buddy of mine, and he said it was okay if I shared a hotel with him, but he was about 2 hours away from me. So as I started driving towards him, I got about 50 miles into the trip and ran into a road closed sign. So I had to take a detour, and as I was detouring, after about 15 miles, I ran into another road closed sign. And this happened about 5 times. And so then my truck started having a mechanical problem. And at that point, my GPS was unreliable because it doesn't know what roads were closed. So as I pulled to the side of the road, I was like, I'm not sure what I need to do. So as I was sitting there, I decided to call my wife. Through the tracker on my phone, she was able to see where I was and help me to locate the nearest hotel. I stayed in the hotel Saturday and was able to find a church to visit on the next Sunday morning. I worked in the hotel that night, and as I was there working, I started to be concerned about my truck and the mechanical problems it was having. So I decided the best thing for me to do was probably try to get the truck home before it tore up 500 miles from home. And so I got about 130 miles from the hotel, and then my truck broke down. As I pulled to the side of the road in total darkness in the middle of nowhere, once again, I called my wife. And she called Pastor Bobby, and the two of them immediately began to try to find a way to get me and my truck home. As you can imagine, I was starting to feel a little down. And so I talked to Pastor Bobby on the phone, and he told me not to go there, not to feel sorry for myself. And so I took his advice, and as I was sitting there, I saw a man that was walking in my direction from down the road. And so as he got closer, I remembered I had some bags for the homeless that were in my truck that the youth had put together. So I grabbed a couple of the bags, and as he approached, I asked him to come over to my truck and get some of the bags. And when he did, I asked him to have a seat, and so we had a conversation. I was able to share the salvation story of Jesus Christ with him. And one amazing fact that he had told me that he had been praying to God or asking God for the last 3 months for God to make himself real to him. He told me that he had been walking and that he had slept less than a quarter of a mile in some pine trees just up ahead. And that got me thinking. I had left at the right time and broke down at the right spot. And I asked him if he thought that God would allow my truck to break down right here in this spot just so me and him could have this encounter. And he said he believed that that was possible. And so with that in mind, I presented the gospel to him. And so after I went through the salvation story, I asked him if he would like to pray to receive Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. And he said yes, he absolutely would. So we prayed a prayer together, and he sat there for a little bit longer, and then he continued on his journey. I had to continue to wait for the tow truck driver to come to pick me up. And so after the tow truck driver arrived to pick me up, we left, and when I was up in the cab with him, I took the opportunity to share the gospel with him. And after he dropped me where we was going to do, I had about a 15-hour wait for Matt Moon, Miguel Santiago, and my son Jonah to arrive. Matt got there, we put the truck on the trailer with no problems, chained it down, and was able to drive home safely. This life is full of peaks and valleys, and it's easy to rejoice in the peaks, but I'm learning to rejoice also in the valleys. As Philippians 4:4 says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. I'm Terry Absher. I'm an insurance claims adjuster, and that's my story.